الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني البدري القرشي الهاشمي بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين إنهم سفينة النجاة ومصباح الهدى ولعنة الله على الأعداء أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد قد قال إمام جعفر الصادق عليه السلام: السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. صلوات على محمد وآله. The discussion has been ongoing that Imam al-Hussein is Warith Anbiya, that he is the inheritor of the prophets. Yesterday I analyzed Imam al-Hussein as the inheritor of Nuh, the Nabi of Allah. And I move on today. As I mentioned that within the ziyarat, the next line is Assalamu alayka ya Warisa Ibrahim Khalilullah. But I wanted to save that analysis for the night the Shahadat of Hazrat Ali Akbar is read. So I move on to the next line from that, which is Assalamu alayka ya Warita Musa Kalimillah. Just to quickly recap on the previous majlis, I mentioned that Hazrat Nuh had 4 aspects and qualities that you could see from his story. The first aspect is that he used logical reasoning because he was the first of the prophets that had to preach to a larger community. Yet Imam al-Hussein, his waris, through his message, you find that he appeals to the reason, even one salawat ala Muhammad. His message appeals to the reason of mankind, even without mankind speaking. The second thing which Hazrat Nuh had within his life was sabr, that he was patience. Yes, the patience Nuh showed, Imam al-Hussein showed all that patience within one day on Karbala. The third thing which Hazrat Nuh had was shukr, that Nuh he would thank Allah. But there's a difference between thanking Allah in his circumstances and thanking Allah in the way which Imam al-Hussein did. And the fourth thing which Hazrat Nuh had was his ark. And I compared the ark of Nuh towards the ark of Hussein, that there were many comparisons given, that the ark of Nuh was to save an individual from a material trial, that it was limited, whereas the ark of Hussein would save an individual from a spiritual trial and it was eternal. And I move on from that discussion, moving towards today's discussion. But before I get in towards the lines, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa Kalimullah, I always like to add a line of understanding, a point of understanding. Because after all, over here, we're trying to understand Imam al-Hussein, gain marifat of Imam al-Hussein. And our 6th Imam would say that one hadith which you understand is better than those 1,000 hadiths which you narrate. Because memorizing something is one thing, but to understand is another. And the point of understanding which I want to say for today is that when you look at the message of all the prophets, you find that the Shariat changed, the law changed. That history recorded some prophets as Jews, some as Christians. But in reality, each of these prophets, they were Muslim. That Adam was a Muslim, Nuh was a Muslim, Ibrahim was a Muslim. Why? Because the essence of the religion, the deen, has always been Islam. As the Quran says, Inna deena indallahil Islam. Because within the Quran, when you look at the word deen, you find that deen is presented in the singular form each and every time. That there is no adyan within the Quran, the plural. Why? Because deen has always been one. Similarly, you find that when it comes to the word nur and pertaining towards guidance, that within the Quran, only nur is only found in the singular. Nowhere within the Quran is the plural anwar found. And same way, you find that Husainiyat continues along this path. That Husainiyat is a path of guidance which has been continuing throughout the prophets. That each prophet in his own right was Hussein, whereas it was the other side that kept changing their faces and they kept changing their tactics. You know, the famous Pakistani poet Iqbal would say, Haqiqat abadi hai maqam shabbiri badalte rahe shakle kufi o shami. That he would say that Hussein is an eternal reality, where it was the other sides, the Kufans and the Shamis, which would change their face throughout history. And I come towards the lines for today, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa kalimillah. The first point to note about this line is that Musa is the first prophet mentioned within this ziyarat that Imam al-Hussein is not from the lineage of. Because Imam al-Hussein, he is not from the lineage of Hazrat Musa, nor is he from the lineage of Hazrat Isa. Because logically, Hazrat Isa didn't have a lineage. And the reason, amongst the many reasons why these prophets are mentioned within this ziyarat, is that if somebody has an objection and says that the only reason Hussein ibn Ali is mentioned as the inheritor of the prophets is because he's from that lineage, then the answer comes in the form of Prophet Musa and Isa, that Imam al-Hussein is their inheritor and he's not from their lineage. Showing that the inheritance of Imam al-Hussein doesn't have to do with material objects, rather it has to do with spirituality. That Imam al-Hussein spiritually saved the message of Musa, thus he's his inheritor. That Musa Kalimullah, that what connection did Musa have with Ahlul Bayt? Yesterday I mentioned that Nuh had a special connection with Ahlul Bayt in the sense that he's buried in the shrine of Imam Ali and that he dug the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You find that Musa also has a special connection with Ahlul Bayt in the sense that you find that throughout the narrations of Ahlul Bayt, the name Musa is often mentioned. That Musa is always mentioned. For example, the famous narration which every single child within this room, and it's amongst the first narrations which our mothers teach us, is that, "O Ali, you are to me as Harun was to Musa." That's amongst the narrations. Further than that, you find that Wadi Tu'a, that wadi, that valley which had the flame, that valley was in Masjid Kufa, that it was in the same area, that this is another connection between Ahlul Bayt and Musa. That Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa kalimillah. What did Musa have? What aspects from the stories of Musa can we bring forth? Amongst the things and qualities which Musa we see is that number one, the universality of Musa. That Musa is that prophet whose name was taken more than any other prophet within the Quran. That this is the first thing which Hazrat Musa had. From his stories, we can also see the importance that Musa, the plan of Allah had within the life of Musa. That there was a miraculous way which Musa became to be born. The third thing which we can see from the story of Musa is that he fought against an oppressor. The fourth thing which we see from the story of Musa is that he had marifat of Allah, that he was Kalim Allah, he spoke towards Allah. And the fifth thing which we can see from Musa is dua, that he made a dua when he entered the court of Pharaoh. And through these 5 points, I will examine Imam al-Hussein as the waris of Nabiullah Musa. Now the first point I mentioned was that Hazrat Musa is the most universal prophet. That in the name of Musa is mentioned more than any other prophet within the Quran. You know, I made the point a few days ago is that they say that why isn't the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen mentioned within the Quran? Does this take away from his greatness? The answer is no. Because had the number of times a name is mentioned been the reason behind the greatness of an individual, people could say that Musa is greater than our final prophet, if that was the reason. Because the name of our prophet by name is only mentioned 4 times within the Quran. That the name Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. that the name Muhammad is mentioned 4 times within the Quran, and once the name of the Prophet comes up as Ahmad. Yes, there's title, for example, Taha, Yasin are amongst the titles. But the name comes up 5 times, yet Musa's name comes up more. That whenever you look at the story of Musa, you can find something which your life can relate to. That if you're having difficulty facing the troubles of society, then look at Musa and what he faced. That if you want to look at the relation between how 2 brothers should be, look at how Musa and Harun acted, and so on and so on. But you find that although Musa was universal, Imam al-Hussein took the concept of being able to relate to everyone towards a whole nother level. You know, every single child, every single person, within their fitrat, Imam al-Hussein is there. What do I mean by this? That within the fitrat of a human being, people crave for Imam al-Hussein. You know, in Surah Al-Shams, there's an ayat which says, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَالتَّقْوَاهَا. That by the soul and he who inspired it, he taught it what is good and what is bad. You know, within this ayat, and it's amongst the ayats which we recite during Eid prayers. You know, this ayat and the other surah which we recite is Surah Al-A'la and Surah Al-Shams. These are the 2 surahs within Eid Salat. Now, why do we recite these 2 surahs? Amongst the reasons we recite these 2 surahs are because these are the 2 surahs which talk about the purification of the soul. That Surah Al-A'la says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, that successful, felicitous is the one who purifies the soul, and this one talks about the soul and how it was inspired. And in Surah Al-Shams, that ayat which I mentioned, it talks about how the human being within his soul naturally, there are certain qualities which he's attracted towards. That I gave this example a few days ago, and I don't like to repeat myself. But if you go towards a village in Africa or a village in South America, or whether it's here, you find that people intrinsically find ideas such as truth, such as staying away from murder, that this is viewed as positively. Why? Because it's within the fitrat of a human being. You know, the Prophet would say that when a child cries, the first 4 months he's crying, that crying is his proclamation towards the oneness of God, towards the tawheed of Allah. The second 4 months which he's crying is his proclamation towards the love of the Prophet and the love of Ahlul Bayt. And the third 4 months which he cries are du'as which he is making for his parents. That every single child is born as a Muslim and his parents make him into what he becomes. And you find that many individuals, they gain from Imam al-Hussein, such as Mahatma Gandhi would say that I learned how to fight oppression from Hussein. Nelson Mandela would say that when I was in jail for 20 years, there were times where I would want to quit, but in my head I would think of Hussein, and that would give me inspiration to continue. That this is the universal nature of Imam al-Hussein. So the first point is that Musa was universal, but Imam al-Hussein is universal at a level even higher than Musa. That even on the day of Ashura, you see individuals who have no connection with religion, they come on the day of Ashura. Now some people, they look at it negatively, that why are these individuals only coming once a year? But I reply by saying that at least once a year they come. That there is one thread connecting them towards religion, and the name of that thread is Hussein ibn Ali. So the universality of Musa. That what is the second thing which I mentioned that you see from the story of Musa? And that thing is the power of the plan of Allah. The Quran says that you plan and they plan, but Allah is the best of planners. That you look at Musa, that Pharaoh, he saw a prophecy that a child from Bani Israel, he would overthrow his throne, his caliphate, his throne, his government. That what did Pharaoh start doing? That every odd year he would kill every single child born. Yet when Musa's time to be born came, that Allah gave inspiration towards his mother to put Musa in the Nile. Musa went down towards the Nile, that Bibi Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, picks him up, and Musa, he grows up in the house of Pharaoh. That look at the power of the plan of Allah within the life of Musa. And in the same way, you find that the power of the plan of Allah is seen within the movement of Imam al-Hussein. That every single thing within his movement was pre-planned. It was carefully planned. That even when Imam al-Hussein leaves, he first goes towards Makkah. That why does he go towards Makkah? Why not go straight towards Karbala? He goes towards Makkah, that where all the Muslims are gathering for a Hajj, for all of them to see that the grandson of the Prophet is over here and he's turning away from his Hajj. That what is going on within the world? That Imam al-Hussein, he planned every single thing. One salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. And some people will say, based upon the plan of Allah, that if Hussein ibn Ali, that he knew that he would be killed in Karbala, if he had that ilm al-ghaib, that knowledge of the unseen, if he heard that prophecy from his grandfather, then why did he go towards Karbala? The answer to that is Allah only gives ilm al-ghaib, He only gives knowledge of the unseen to those individuals that can handle it. That if you have certain individuals, you told them that you're going to die at this spot on that day, what would you do? You would probably run away from that spot, make sure you never see that spot. But this is the warith of the Anbiya, that the prophecy was that he would save the entire religion of Islam. But instead of running away, he would go towards that spot, that he would wait for Karbala to happen. That this is Imam al-Hussein. And this idea of having patience with knowledge, it's seen within the life of Musa. That Musa, after he did everything, after he had overthrown Pharaoh, after he went, you find that Hazrat Musa, a thought came to his mind that maybe I've reached my peak, that maybe I know everything. But at that point, Allah told Musa, He brought revelation on him, that go find someone more knowledgeable than you, O Musa. And the Quran says that he went towards Qidr, and it introduced Qidr as Abdun min ibadina, a servant from amongst our servants. That when Musa went to go gain knowledge, he went to a servant from amongst the servants, that ibadina, the plural, that this highlights that maybe there were other servants also, that when Khidr needs to learn something, he goes towards those individuals. And history narrates that one time the Prophet was in Masjid al-Nawawi, an old man, he walks in, his eyebrows were sagging, his back was bent. He comes to ask the Prophet a question. The Prophet doesn't say that I'll answer the question. He points at a child, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, who was sitting there, and he says, go ask him that question, he can answer for you. That when Musa is Sahib al-Shariyat, Musa is an Ulul Azam prophet, that when Musa needs to gain knowledge, Musa goes towards Khizr, but when Khizr needs to go gain knowledge, he goes towards the children of Ali Muhammad. One salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Further than that, you find that there's a famous narration of our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq, salawatu wa salamu alayhi, where the Imam states that if I was with Musa and Khidr, if I was the third of the three, I would have been the one teaching both of them. That this is a famous narration of our sixth Imam. So what happened with Musa and Khidr? Musa comes towards Khidr, he says to him that I want to learn from you. Khidr replies by saying that you don't have patience to learn from me. Ma kayfa tasbir ala ma lam tuhit bihi qubra. That how can you have patience about those things which you do not know, O Musa? That sometimes when you want to elevate your knowledge to the level that the Imams had, you have to have sabr with it. That what did Khidr do? That they're going together. Khidr first, he pokes a hole within a boat. Musa, he objects towards this. Khidr says, didn't I tell you that you don't have patience to bear with me? What's the second thing which Khidr did? That when they got to the town, the people of the town, they rejected them food, they were rude to them. Yet Khidr, he fixes a wall which was found within that town for those individuals. What's the third thing which happened? The third thing which happened was that Khidr, he killed an innocent boy who was over there. At that point, Musa said, I can't handle this, I've had enough of this. Khidr said, didn't I tell you that you don't have patience to bear with me? I'll tell you the reason as to why I did this, but after this we have to depart. That what was the reason to the first thing, the hole being put in the boat? The reason was that there was a tyrant king who is taking away every single individual's ships, and this ship belonged to a poor person, so if you put a hole in the boat, then there was no reason for him to take the ship because it would be useless for him. What was the second thing? The second thing was that he fixed the wall, despite the people being rude to him. He gave the answer that this wall was for a yatim, for an orphan, that he became orphaned. His parents left that for him, so I fixed that wall so that land could be fixed for him. And the third thing why he killed the innocent boy was because his parents were mu'mineen and this boy would cause him trouble, thus he ended up killing him. That there was a reason behind this, yet Musa did not have sabr to gain this level of knowledge, whereas Imam al-Hussein, he knew about what would happen in Karbala. That this is the difference between Musa and the waris of Musa. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second reason was the power of the plan of Allah. The third thing which we see from the story of Musa, in which Imam al-Hussein is the inheritor, is a point which we can't overlook, is that both of them, they stood up against a tyrant the likes of which no one else has seen. That Islam, it preaches standing up against oppression. That, there's the story of the people of Madian, the people that Prophet Shoaib was sent to. They say that there were 100,000 people within that town. 60,000 of them would perform their duties and they were good. And 40,000 of them were causing mistakes. They were causing fasad and corruption. That the question came up is that 60,000 are good, 40,000 aren't good. Why destroy the entire town of Madian? The answer came is that those 60,000 who were doing good, they weren't preaching out against oppression. So Allah brought an azab, a punishment upon that town. That Islam, it preaches this. And you find that Imam al-Hussein and Hazrat Musa, they preached against oppression and they stood up against the tyrants of their time. Now, when you look, that when Pharaoh came into power, that he started a system of three things. That there were three things which Pharaoh started, which is common in many of the regimes of many oppressors throughout the world. The first thing is that oppression itself. That Pharaoh, when he came in, oppression started. Yet Imam al-Hussein faced an oppressor the likes of which society hasn't seen. That some people say that Karbala was a battle between two kings and it wasn't a battle between truth and falsehood, religion and non-religion. The answer comes in is that you examine history. That I challenge anyone to tell me that Karbala is a battle between two kings after examining history. That Yazid's caliphate, it lasted 3 years. It lasted 3 years. The first year, what happened? Karbala happened. That the grandson of the Prophet was killed. What was the second thing which happened in the second year? In the second year, you find that Waqiyatul Hurra happened, that they went in towards Medina. 10,000 people were killed within Medina. That within Masjidun Nabawi, they would type horses that would bring najasat in towards the masjid. That this was year 2 of the caliphate of Yazid. And the third year, he ordered the destruction of the Kaaba. That Yazid, he wasn't just attacking any individual, he was attacking the entire religion of Islam at its foundation. Why? Because the first year he attacked Imam al-Hussein, he attacked Imamat. The second year he attacked the city of the Prophet, the mosque of the Prophet, he attacked Nabuwat. And the third year he destroyed the symbol of Tawheed known as the Kaaba. So he attacked the entity of Tawheed itself. That this is who Yazid was. So the first thing that Pharaoh did was that he brought oppression, and Yazid took oppression to another level. The second thing which Pharaoh did was that he started the objectification of women. How? That every odd year he would kill the child of every woman. That he would ruin their lives. That he would partake in illicit acts. And you find that Yazid, he would do the same. That Yazid was an adulterer. That Yazid, history narrates that he made the marriage between a mother and a child and the marriage between a brother and a sister halal. That as the caliph of the Muslims, this is what Yazid did. But you find that Imam al-Hussein, he stood up against every wrong ideology of Yazid. As in one alim would say that if haya, modesty exists today, then it exists because of Karbala. That Imam al-Hussein gave an example for those women. That there were women in Sham who were partaking in illicit deeds. But Imam al-Hussein gave an example of perfection in Bibi Zainab and those women which he took with him. That they would take pride with their hijab. That they would take pride that they stood up for the message of truth. That this was the second thing. And the third thing which happened when Pharaoh took power was that people, they started to succumb to the individual who had power. That whenever there's someone with power, people, they try to please that individual. That when Musa went back towards Pharaoh and the magicians were in front of Musa and the asa of Musa became a snake, his stick became a snake, the magicians, they knew that what Musa wasn't doing was magic, that what Musa was doing was from his Lord. They said, Amanna bi Rabbi Haruna wa Musa, that we believe in the Lord of Harun and Musa. That at that point, Pharaoh, he tried to use his power. He tried to use his power to subjugate them. But they said no, that Musa, that Pharaoh, he said that I will cut your hands and your feet and I will crucify you. But the magicians, they say we believe in the Lord of Harun and Musa. But I also bring up, since this ayat came up, another side of this ayat, is that why did the magicians not only say Amanna Billah? Or why didn't they not say Amanna bi Rabbi Musa? That I believe in Allah, I believe in the Lord of Musa. Why mention Harun and Musa and Allah? It went to show that if you want your iman, if you want your religion to be complete, not only do you have to believe in Allah, but you have to believe in the Prophet of Allah and the successor towards that Prophet. That's why he said, Amanna bi Rabbi Harun wa Musa. One salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That this was the third point, that people, they would begin to be subjugated. And you find Amir al-Mu'mineen within Nahjul Balagha, he would counteract this ideology. Why? He would say that go find the truth and you will find the people of truth. That find the truth first. Don't look at names and personalities. Go look for a haqq and you'll find that. And you know, this is an interesting statement, because on one side Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying go find haqq and you will find the people of haqq. And on the other side the Prophet would say al-aliyu ma'al haqq wa haqqu ma'al ali, meaning that if you want to find haqq, go find Ali, and those people of haqq are those individuals that stand by Amir al-Mu'mineen, that they stand by Amir al-Mu'mineen and what Amir al-Mu'mineen stood for. And this is what Karbala is about. That when Allahumma salli. That this is what Karbala is about. When you analyze Karbala, don't only analyze the names, analyze the circumstances, analyze who's on truth and who's on the other side, and you by yourself, you'll come to the conclusion that Imam al-Hussein was on the side of haqq. So the next aspect which I mentioned was that he stood up against an oppressor, Imam al-Hussein, in the way that Musa stood up against an oppressor. The fourth thing is that Musa, he had marifat of Allah, he had cognizance of Allah, and he had cognizance to such an extent that he reached the stage where he became Kalim Allah, that he spoke to Allah through the median of the fire, that he spoke towards Allah. You know, Musa, he spoke to Allah, but his recognition was at one level. But then you look at the narrations of Ahlul Bayt about the recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which they had. That, you know, they would say to Amir al-Mu'mineen that, can you see your God? Imam would reply by saying, I wouldn't worship a God who I couldn't see. They said to Ali, oh Ali, what do you mean by this statement? He says that I don't see him with my physical eyes, but I see him with the eyes of my heart. That this is what the Imam would say. Further than that, you find the narrations of the Imam where he would say that there was not an act before which I saw Allah, during which I saw Allah, and afterwards I saw Allah. That this is Ali when it came towards understanding Allah. And the Prophet, he would say towards Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ma araf Allah illa ana wa ant. that, "O Ali, none has understood Allah except for me and you." And then he would continue and say, "Wa ma'arafani illallah wa ant." And none has understood me except Allah and you, O Ali. And then he says, "Ya Ali, wa ma arafaqa illallah wa ana." And O Ali, none has understood you except for Allah and me. That there is this triad, there is this triangle, that if you want to understand the Prophet, understand him through Allah and Amir al-Mu'mineen. If you want to understand Allah, understand him through the Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen. And if you want to understand the status and the position of Ali, understand it through the Prophet and understand it through Allah. And you find that Imam al-Hussein was at this level of cognizance and marifat of Allah, that Imam al-Hussein would say that, "Oh Allah, what can somebody gain after he's lost you, and what can somebody lose after he's gained you?" That can any other individuals in history testify to saying statements like this about the Tawheed and the oneness of Allah? That Musa was at one level, but the Ahlul Bayt, they were at another level. That Musa was Kalim Allah, that he spoke to Allah through the median of the fire. But you look on the night of Mi'raj, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to speak, he used the voice of Amir al-Mu'mineen to speak. To the extent that the Prophet says that on the night of Mi'raj, I asked him, "Is that you speaking, O Allah, or Ali? Because you sound like Ali." Allah replied by saying, "O Muhammad, I am that existent which isn't like any other existent. I don't speak, but the reason I spoke with the voice of Ali is because I looked into the depths of your heart. And when I looked into the depths of your heart, I found nothing except the love of Ali within your heart. Thus I spoke with the voice of Ali to bring you tranquility on this night." That Musa Kalim Allah, that he spoke towards Allah. But on the flip side, when Allah wanted to speak, he used the voice of Ahlul Bayt to speak towards the Prophet. He used the voice of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Continuing along to the next and the final point, is that the importance of dua within the life of Musa. That when Musa he came back towards the darbar, towards the court of Pharaoh, he made a dua. He said, "Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatum min lisani yafqahu qawli walj'al li waziran min ali Haruna akhi." That, "Oh Allah, expand my chest, make my affairs easy for me, remove this knot from my tongue so I can speak properly, and appoint a wazir, a minister from amongst my family, Haruna akhi, my brother Harun." That Musa, he had some fear within his heart when he was entering the darbar of Pharaoh. But look at Sayyid al-Sajjad and Bibi Zainab, that when they entered the court of Yazid, they entered in such a way that there was no fear within their heart. They entered in such a way that they turned that entire courtroom of Yazid against Yazid to be on their side. That you have Musa on one side and you have the waris and the inheritors of Musa on the other. And you find that the Prophet, he made this same dua. You know, there's an importance towards dua, that if you want to look at the school of Ahlul Bayt, amongst the uniqueness of the school of Ahlul Bayt is that there are duas found within this school that there are within no other sect. That if somebody is asking you about Shia Islam, one of the books that you should give them is Sayfa Sajjadiyah. That give them this book because they'll see the power of dua. And within every instance within the life of Musa, you find dua held an important position. That one Hadith al-Qudsi states is that Allah spoke to Musa and he said to Musa, "O Musa, ask me for everything, even the salt within your food." That ask me for everything, even the salt within your food. And you know, another narration comes to mind. Sometimes as a speaker, your heart begins to speak and your tongue is the intermediary. That another narration comes to mind is that Hubbu Aliyun fil Islam ka milli fit ta'am. That the love of Ali in Islam is like salt with it for your food. That without the love of Ali within Islam, there is no flavor towards the religion. And also you find that salt, it has a preservative property. That you put salt in meat and that preserves it. The same way the love of Ali preserves the religion of Islam. And that wasn't on topic, but since I mentioned the other narration about salt, it came towards my mind. Now Musa, he made that dua, Rabbi Shrah li Sadri, and you find that history narrates that when the beggar came in towards the mosque, when he came in towards the mosque, and I narrated the incident a couple of days ago, so I won't go into full detail. When he was begging and Amir al-Mu'mineen stuck his ring out, and he took the ring from Amir al-Mu'mineen. The second part of that incident is that the Prophet was over there making dua. That the Prophet at that point, he was making dua. And what dua did he make? He said, "Oh Allah, my brother Musa, he made a dua towards you." That Musa said, "Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa lul uqtatum min lisani yafqahu qawli wa jalli waziran min ali haruna akhi." That, oh Allah, make my affairs easy. Appoint a wazir, a minister from amongst my family. Oh Allah, you accepted the dua of Musa. Allahumma wa ana nabiyuka wa safiyuk. Oh Allah, that I am your Nabi and your chosen one. I am making a dua to you right now. Fashrah li sadri wa yassir li amri waj'al li waziran min ahli aliyun akhi. That make my affairs easy for me. Appoint a minister from amongst my family, my brother Ali ibn Abi Talib, and the ayat of wilayat which said innama waliyakum Allah wa rasulahu, and so forth. It came down. That this came down because of du'as. That this is the importance of du'as. And Allah says within the Quran, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي أَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِي. That when my servants, that Allah, He's using that tense which relates to personableness, towards being personable. That He says, when my servants, they ask about me, tell them that I'm near and I accept their du'as. That sometimes Allah takes the plural. That inna ataynaka al-kawthar. That we gave you kawthar, O Rasulallah. We gave you kawthar. That why does Allah use the plural? That is there Allah more than one? No. The reason He uses the plural is to show His greatness. That sometimes when the Queen of England, she speaks, she'll say we. Within Old English, you'll see the term we. Why did they say we? Because when you have a status of highness, they use the word we. But within this ayat, Allah doesn't use the plural. He speaks at a personal level, and He says, when they ask about me. One salawat ala Muhammad wa ala. That and I conclude with the things which Musa had, and then the ways Imam al-Hussein was his inheritor. The first, Musa was universal, but Imam al-Hussein was universal at a level the likes of which no one has seen. That Musa, the plan of Allah, played a part in his life, and the plan of Allah played a greater part in the life of Imam al-Hussein. You find that Musa, dua was within the life of Musa. You find that Musa stood up against an oppressor. You find that all these things, they were within the life of Musa. But you know, when his life was beginning, the reason he lived is because he was a child, and his mother, she put him in the river, and that river, it saved Musa. But I say to the Furat, oh Furat, could you not have saved Ali Asghar on this night? That could you not have saved Ali Asghar on this night? You know, the history narrates that Imam al-Hussein, he said, Hal min Nasir and Yansurna 4 times on the day of Ashura. The first time he said, Hal min Nasir and Yansurna. That first one was for the Imam of our time, for when he would avenge Karbala. The second time he said, Hal min Nasir and Yansurna was for the angels. That they would come, they would ask Allah, that who is this gharib individual on the earth? Can we help this individual? The third time he said, Hal min Nasir yansurna. The bodies of the companions, they began to shake. But then he said, Hal min Nasir yansurna. 4th time, he hears hears crying from the tents. He walks towards the tents. What does he see? He sees all the women of that kafilah. All of them are crying around Ali Asghar, that 6-month baby that he fell out from amongst the cradle. They saw the thirst of Ali Asghar. The Imam says, let me take him towards the maqtal. Maybe I'll be able to get water for Asghar. Maybe I'll be able to get water for Asghar. They say that the Imam, he hid Asghar within his abba. He hid him within his abaya. That the enemies thought that the Imam was bringing out the Quran. But little did they know that he was bringing one chapter of the Quran and nothing. That Imam, he asked for water. When they didn't give him water, he places Ali Asghar on the plains of Karbala. On those hot sands. On those hot sands of Karbala, he says to the army of Umar bin Saad that if I have done something wrong, at least this child is masoom. What did this child do? Umar bin Saad says, Ikhta kalam al-Husayn. Cut the words of Husayn. He says to Urmala, oh Urmala, fire an arrow. Urmala, he picks up an arrow. He puts the arrow back down. He picks it up, he puts it back down. Urmala sits on the ground. They say to Urmala, oh Urmala, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Urmala replies by saying, you don't see what I see. I see a lady dressed in black. I see a lady dressed in black saying that my child is masoom. That Fatima the Fatima Zahra was there. Urmala, he fires the arrow at the neck of Ali Asghar. You know, usually when an arrow would be fired, I know these lines are hard to listen to, but if we don't cry on these nights, when will we cry? That when an arrow would go through anyone, it would only go through them once. But when the arrow went through the neck of Asghar, it came in through one side, it went out the other. The blood of Asghar was in the hands of Imam al-Husayn. Imam, he wants to throw the blood towards the sky. A voice comes from the sky, oh Husayn, if this blood goes towards the sky, nothing would come from it. He wants to throw it on the ground. A voice comes that if it hits the ground, nothing would come from it. What does the Imam do? He takes the blood of Asghar, he puts it on his face. That in the plains of Karbala, Imam, he did wuzu with the He did wuzu with the blood of Asghar. The Imam is going back towards the tent. He takes 7 steps forward, 7 steps back. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The Imam, he goes back towards the tent. When he gets towards the tent, history narrates that Sakina comes towards the Imam. When Sakina comes towards the Imam, she says, oh Baba, did you get water for Asghar? Imam, he uncovers Ali Asghar. I come towards the last line that the Imam, he is burying Asghar. He's making that small grave. As he's making that grave, he sees tears from Zulfiqar. He starts speaking towards the Zulfiqar. He says to Zulfiqar, why are you crying? Zulfiqar replies by saying that I wasn't made to dig the grave of a Muslim. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون اللهم إني أسألك بحق فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها. Ya Allah, on this night we ask through the right of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad to help those from amongst our followers who are oppressed. whether it's in Iraq or Pakistan or Bahrain, whether it's in Saudi Arabia. Ya Allah, we pray for them to be relieved from these difficulties, and we pray for them to be relieved with the ultimate relief and the hastening of the reappearance of our Mawla Sahib al-Zaman. We pray for those who are sick and ailing. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.